Hi again, Brian Harrison here, and today we're going to be comparing the all-new O-DROID-go Advance with the Ambernic RG350. The first major difference you'll see is that you actually have to build the O-DROID yourself. It comes as a kit and you have to assemble it. It's not too hard. A couple of the ribbon cables can be a bit fiddly, and just be careful to make sure you always use the right screws in the right holes so it doesn't break. The comparison today is with the Ambernic RG350, probably the most popular handheld gaming device at the moment on the market, and we'll see how it compares. The first thing I'll talk about is the UI. This is running Emulation Station on the O-DROID-go Advance, and it's a really beautiful interface and it's easy to use. You can set it up whichever way you want. There's so many options. The RG350 uses OpenDingux, which is a little bit more like a Windows desktop style interface. The emulators are all separated. They have different control keys and exit keys. They're not as pretty, and there's lots of setting screens everywhere you go. I would say, hands down, the O-DROID-go Advance takes it for the UI. So for the games, the first one I wanted to test is Mortal Kombat 2. This is a game I've never been able to get running well on any portable device, so I was quite excited when this worked really well on the O-DROID-go Advance. As you can see, it's nearly running full frames, and the audio quality is quite good as well. It's worth noting this is running on MAME 2003 libretro, which is renowned to be the best emulator for Mortal Kombat 2. But I'm super happy to have this finally in a portable handheld. It's my favourite of the Mortal Kombat series. I'll just quickly show you another location to highlight the colours. This is a TFT screen, whereas the RG350 has an IPS screen, but this is still a very good quality screen. So let's have a look at this running on the RG350. And it's not pretty. The only emulator I was able to get this to run under was MAME for All, and it's very laggy, the audio is glitching out, it's pretty much unplayable. Back to the O-DROID-go Advance to compare. It's just so much better. This is definitely a win for the O-DROID if you are a fan of Mortal Kombat 2. And I'm getting my ass beaten by Katana by the looks of it. Ouch. Okay, the next one I want to compare is Double Dragon on arcade. This is actually a difficult one to emulate as well. I've had a lot of versions of this in the past, and many of them don't run well when there's lots of characters on the screen, so this section up here is actually the perfect area to test, because you get the girl, a couple of guys, and the big, is it a Bobo, the boss? Yeah, so this is running flawlessly, and it has no visible signs of slowdown. The audio is really good, and the same scene on the RG350 is not so good. You can see the noticeable slowdown. The audio sounds like dirt. Yeah, not much to see here. It's, I'd say, unplayable. And I found this performance pretty much the same across all the emulators. Back to the O-DROID-go Advance. It's running really well. So another clear win for the O-DROID on Double Dragon Arcade. The next game I wanted to compare is Wonder Boy for the arcade. This is a fast-scrolling game and has a lot of problems in many emulators, so I find it's a good one to test. I've tested this in previous videos, and this is running pretty well on the O-DROID. I wouldn't say it's perfect. It also runs very well on the RG350. Maybe even a little bit better. So this one's nowhere near as clear as the previous examples. I think they're both good systems for playing this game. So if I had to pick a winner, maybe I'd go with the RG on this one, just because I think the 4:3 aspect screen looks a bit clearer. They record a little bit differently on video, but trust me, these screens are pretty much on par, even though the O-DROID's only a TFT. Let's try some PlayStation, and here we have R-Type Delta. This runs pretty well, which I expected. No problems with frame rates, the audio is good, controls feel good. So yeah, I think every PlayStation game would probably run well on the O-Droid. It's plenty of power and it can handle it. The RG350 also runs this game very well, and it also has the added bonus of vibration, so you've got feedback in the controller, just like a real PlayStation DualShock. I'm not a huge fan of vibration, but it's definitely a nice feature for the RG to have. So I'll give this one to the RG350. Okay, another PlayStation game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. It's running quite well on the odroid-go Advance. I did notice a couple of little audio glitches on the menu system that I don't recall being on the RG350. But overall, yeah, it's running great. Now the 350. Same sort of frame rate, maybe clearer audio or maybe more top end in the audio, but it's pretty even. I don't think you could go wrong with this game on either device. I think I'll give this one a tie. Now some Commodore 64. This is the Last Ninja 2 running on the odroid-go Advance. I will say, even though it's running as good as the RG350, the menu system to get into this was a lot less cumbersome. All the games in Emulation Station have all their underlying emulator settings hidden, so you can just click on the icon and launch the game as if it's like an arcade game. The only caveat there is that for Commodore sometimes you've got to use a keyboard, and there's a button to access the virtual keyboard, which is the far left one at the bottom. So it's quite a seamless experience. And here it is on the RG350. You'll notice it looks a bit brighter. That's because I set up a custom palette for the colours in the Commodore 64. I'm assuming I could do that with the Emulation Station O-Droid version as well. I just haven't tried yet. So other than that, the only real difference I noticed was the setup time to get into the game, find the ROMs, launch the ROMs. There's a menu at the start of this version of Vice. So for usability, I would give it to the odroid-go Advance. Now some Super Nintendo. This is obviously Donkey Kong Country. Running very well. I mean, this isn't the most difficult game to emulate. A lot of systems I've played can actually handle this pretty well. But it's still a good one to compare. Okay, here it is in the RG350. I noticed the audio is a little bit clearer. The screen does look a little bit more washed out, but I think it's being exaggerated by the video. As I'm looking through the video screen, I can see it's not quite true to life. I think the cameras, as I said before, have a bit of trouble filming the RG350 accurately. Maybe it's the fact it's an IPS, and maybe TFTs are easier to film, I'm not sure. But trust me, they both look good. If I had to pick a winner, I'd probably go the RG350. It's just got slightly better audio, but you couldn't go wrong with either system, I think, for all SNES titles. Okay, let's check out some Game Boy Advance on the odroid-go Advance. This is Pokemon Ruby. It all runs well, not surprisingly, but it's a good option if you like Pokemon games for Game Boy Advance. The screen looks fine, nice and smooth scrolling, audio's good. And I suspect that would be the case with pretty much all Game Boy Advance titles. And the RG350, again, good performance, nice and smooth. Clear audio again. Yeah, I would have to say maybe clearer screen on the RG350 if you're looking for it, but another tie. Okay, the Simpsons for the odroid-go Advance. This is running, I would say, nearly perfectly. The screen scrolling is smooth, controls feel very responsive. This is a great option if you like this game. The screen is a little bit softer from memory than the RG350, and the reason for that is I've set it up with options called smoothing. I suspect if I turn that off, it would be a little bit sharper, but a little bit more pixelated. But anyway, it's running very well. Let's check it out on the RG350. So, yep, it's running very well as well. Smooth, fast, responsive. As I mentioned, a little bit sharper on this device. It could be the IPS screen, or it could be the fact I've got a smoothing option set up on the odroid-go Advance, which generally is better for a lot of arcade games. But this is pretty much a tie. Okay, final fight. It's a good one to test. It's running pretty much perfectly again on the odroid-go Advance. One thing I will say is that the build quality of the odroid-go Advance is a bit inferior to the RG350. The buttons are a bit clackety and loose, and the D-pad feels quite cheap. The overall unit is nowhere near as refined as the RG350. I don't find it a problem. It's never been a problem playing these games, but it's something to take note. It's not quite as refined as the RG350. Here it is, running on the RG350, and you can notice the better colours, I think, on this game. It's probably true for all the games, but it's an IPS screen. The O-DROID has a cheaper TFT. That being said, it's one of the best TFTs I've ever seen. If they'd told me it was an IPS, I probably wouldn't have questioned it. Now, because it's got a more powerful RISC processor in this device compared to the RG350, it can actually handle Nintendo 64 quite well. I've seen lots of videos of people trying to get it running on the RG350, and it's quite glitchy. The audio's bugging out a lot. I mean, it's not perfect on the O-DROID yet, but it's definitely a lot better than anything you'll see on the RG350, and it's one of the reasons I think a lot of people are interested in this device. In its early days, the platform we're using, using EmuElect, there's two others I'm aware of, there's Batocera and Retro Arena, are very early days. Like, this device only came out 3 or 4 weeks ago. You can hear a bit of audio glitching in this part of this level, but it picks up quite quickly. And it's one of the best performers I've seen of all the various handhelds for Nintendo 64. So I think that's a huge bonus for this device, and something to keep in mind. Although I did try GoldenEye, because that seems to be one of the hardest games on Nintendo 64 to emulate, and it was unplayable. So we're not quite there yet for Nintendo 64, but this is definitely a lot closer than the RG350 would be. And finally, just a quick demo of one of my favorite games, Raiden. I find it frustrating with the, I guess, bar top systems like the G1000 and the JXD series. Their version of Final Burn Alpha doesn't play this game. I think they slipped the Mega Drive version or something in the arcade list to try and fill that hole, but it's just not the same, and it's really cool to have that finally on my device. And I think that's where this device really impresses me, that you can have everything you want in one handheld with a very clean interface. You can set the interface up any way you want. You can even put it in like a kids mode where you can't even change the settings without a secret password, which would be great if you've got kids. There's no need to screw around in menus with lots of settings, and there's no way they can do any damage to the system by changing settings. All the different emulators launch the same way. You just click on the icon and up comes the game, and if you want to change settings, you've got a very clear menu system to do that. I'll do a quick demo of those settings. So here we can see Twin Cobra running full screen width, which not everyone's a fan of because it's a portrait oriented game, so let's try changing it. You just use the same exit routine for all games, the far left and far right bottom buttons. You can go to settings and go into advanced game options, and there's all these different things you can do. And there's an override, global override for all these games, so you don't have to set up for every single game. I'll choose a aspect ratio that's more portrait, and I'll show you that. Now that image you saw there of a cartridge, that can be replaced with custom cover art, just to keep in mind. I haven't uploaded any yet. So there it is, and it's running in portrait mode now. I personally prefer the widescreen, even though it's a bit stretched. I just find it easier to see the items on the screen because it's not a huge screen, but you've got the option there to do it. And that's pretty much the attitude with this device. You've got the option to do just about everything you want to do. You can set this thing up any way you want it. There's so many settings for all the games. You've got multiple emulators to try to see if you can get it to run perfectly. or you can leave it on auto setting and it will auto detect which emulator it's using. I assume it tries running it on a number of them, and then whichever one crashes it skips to the next one, but it all happens behind the scenes. You don't have to understand how it's working. So verdict time. The build quality without doubt is better on the RG350. The buttons feel better, the D-pad feels better, although I do prefer the D-pad on the higher position on the left rather than below the analog stick. You do have multiple left and right shoulder buttons, multiple analog sticks. It will play all your Game Boy Advanced, all your Super Nintendo, all your PlayStation for the most part, and most of the arcade games you could ever want to play. So for a lot of people, that's going to be more than enough. But the O-DROID-go Advance is the more powerful system, and the emulation station front end is a dream to work with. It does have a slightly cheaper feel to the RG350. The build quality is just quite not as good. And you have to assemble it yourself, which wouldn't be everyone's preference, I would assume. And right now, because it's such early software, it's a lot of work to get this thing running the way you want it to. Even getting ROMs on the system can be problematic. You've got to mount special Linux file system formats or use a Wi-Fi dongle to get them on there. Another annoyance would be the charging system for this device. It's a non-standard pin charger, so you can't just plug it into a USB to charge it. But the software will mature over time. It's still a very young system. The community has been working very hard, but there's a long way to go. But at some point, we should have full images we can download off sites like Arcade Punks, where you just flash the image and you've got a full-featured game system ready to go. So with all that in mind, the winner is the O-DROID-go Advance. I haven't been this excited about a portable handheld for a long time. This feels like what we've been waiting for. I think the modding community will probably address some of the build quality issues, maybe putting better buttons in, better D-pads in, but really this is a great system and I'm looking forward to playing it for many years to come. It's definitely the one to beat for 2020. So hit subscribe if you like these kinds of reviews and stay tuned.